I had done a video on people who are in a consistent state of rage and instability that's related to that. And I had a commenter, if you click on my comment here, who says, I'm the opposite. I don't get angry at all. And I'd like to respond to that. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. And so, again, this commenter says, I don't get angry at all. Usually when I hear people who don't get angry at all, I usually hear that from people who have experienced trauma. Um, so when they're just on an even keel all the time, and they are emotionless, or there's just sort of a flat emotional range. Usually, if they don't experience anger, they may not experience joy. So they don't experience the end of the spectrum. And usually with people who have trauma, not being emotionally expressive is a survival mechanism, especially if you were a victim or survivor. If you were a victim, you were taught early on that you cannot have autonomy over your body, or that could get you into trouble, or it can cause upheaval around an abuser or in the home. So you were literally just surviving, but power over your body and over your personal autonomy is taken away. You have to be subservient to your abuser. So a good example, a good example would be, have you ever heard something like, yeah, if you grew up in a black family or something like that, stop that crying before I give you something to cry about. You better fix your face before I fix it for you. That type of stuff. If you've ever been told that kind of stuff, then you've been told indirectly that you cannot have an emotional expression to what's being done to you, because that may invite more abuse, that may invite more aggression, even though I want to be very careful in saying that you're not causing it, but that you feeling sad, you feeling upset, you hurting, agitates an abusive person. They just get more and more agitated, and that may cause further abuse or rejection or neglect. And therefore, you have conditioned yourself to be, emotionless, and you've conditioned yourself. You may also have conditioned yourself to stay emotionless, especially if you are still in a relationship with your abuser. And this happens when your abuser is a parent or a family member. Your body will stay in survival mode, including your face, because this is a person that you still have to be around. You still have to keep up appearances, and you have to do the best you can. And so there is that memory in terms of how you have to act and think and behave around this person your life could depend on. We may also repeat those dynamics in other relationships in our life. Intimate partners, friends, the job is another one. When I worked at corrections, corrections can be brutal, it can be vicious, and people aren't necessarily smiling or happy to be there. And so it's more or less like, and then people can be mean and nasty and very calculating towards other people. So there is that also. You can repeat what you don't repair. So therefore, your body is doing that. The other thing, lastly, I'll mention is this: you might not even be aware. It sounds like you have awareness to a certain degree, but I don't know if you have awareness moment to moment, or when certain things happen to you throughout the day. Like you might, a lot of victims that I've worked with are not aware of how they emotionally show up for themselves. They may be able to say, well, you know what, I don't get angry. What, you don't get happy either, right? Or Have you ever experienced joy, or why are you smiling when you talk about your trauma? Like, this is something that's painful. Like, so sometimes people don't. A lot of times they don't have that self awareness in the moment. They might have a little bit, but not a whole lot. Like, oh, because most of the time I hear like, oh, I didn't even realize I was doing that, or I'm not sure, and then they feel ashamed. But they have to sort of wear a mask, and sometimes, a lot of times, that bleeds over even with themselves. Because another thing that people will in abuse will do is they'll lie to themselves, right? And it's not in a malicious way, but they lie to themselves and say, you know what, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm okay. And it just allows them to continue to stay in an environment or continue to interact with people that aren't safe. But they have to sort of talk themselves through, like, I'm okay, and that keeps them in a place where they may not necessarily want to be. And they don't even realize that they're doing that. So I hope this helps. Let me know. Like, comment, follow, and share. Thank you so much. Take care. One other thing that I will say about this, is anger may be an emotion that you need to tap into. You may need to feel safe enough to be tapping into it. A good therapist will help you do that. Like, in terms of bringing your emotional awareness to certain moments, which cause for that. So sometimes I'll, when I've worked with clients, I'll say, doesn't that like piss you off? Like, when you're telling me that is like super disrespectful. Like, I'm noticing you don't have any sort of reaction to that. So they'll call attention, and cue you in to delayed reactions, and they'll stop you from running through your routine and help you maybe think about things a little bit more, and clue you in to your emotions and why you may not be reacting to that. So that's what a good person will do. They'll help you be in your body, connect the mind body a little bit more, be a little bit more somatic and in tune with things, so that your feelings can actually register to what's happening, because you may just be so checked out from what's happening, or emotionally numb, or just used to it, that you're not even self-aware. But a good therapist will help you with that. Thanks so much.